So you've got the Search For Weng Weng, the Lesbo-A-Go-Go, and you've got the doco that you produced, Gone, Lesbo Gone, the Untold Tale of an Unseen Film.
I know, apparently
And
it's all about me.
Yeah, a Sunday of Stumpy.
God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to live this one down.
It's a whole lot on display.
I think it's a little too much.
And the best part is you get to explain yourself on the Sunday afternoon at the MUFF Academy prior to the screening, where you're probably going to do a Q&A after the Search For Weng Weng.
Yeah.
Then a Q&A after Gone, Lesbo Gone, before Lesbo-A-Go-Go, but then no Q&A after Lesbo-A-Go-Go properly.
That's a lot of bloody blah.
It is, but at least you get to leave after Lesbo-A-Go-Go.
At least I get to explain myself to all those judgy little faces.
True. Which you'll probably no doubt know a whole lot of them anyway.
Yeah. Explain yourself!
Now I was going to say too, this is Search For Weng Weng. This is the third time it's screened in Melbourne in the space of just over a year.
Technically the fourth screening. There were two at Melbourne International.
There was two, right? I didn't know there was two.
And of course the Monster Fest screening at Yaya's with big oversized headphones.
Yeah. And it probably won't be the last time we'll see it in Melbourne.
I doubt it. I'll be banging that can for a while, I think. Wait until I've got my documentary trilogy.
Yes, of course. Then you'll be able to do the whole roadshow.
Exactly.
To the country.
That'll be all about me again.
Exactly. You'll have to just actually come up with like a Stumpy Fest.
Yeah. Stump Fest.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could actually do a opening night. One of the bands could play opening and closing nights. You could have, Escape from... Was it Escape from Toy Town?
Yes, definitely not the Vagina Billies. That will never happen again.
It won't? I thought
it'll happen one more time.
Yeah.
It'll happen one more time, but then never again.
Right. Okay, so...
Anyway, let's talk about the movies.
I was going to say, we've spoken...
Enough about nudity and food.
We've spoken about these movies. I wanted to ask, what was your sort of earliest cinematic memory? Because you had quite a unique upbringing in terms of where you were living and what you were exposed to. So what was sort of the earliest childhood memories of cinema?
Well, I don't remember watching movies on TV. I think the first time I actually saw a movie, was when I was about 5.
Right.
I was living in the Middle East from age 4, and in Oman, we used to live on top of a mountain.
Okay.
Work camp, basically, on the top of a flat mountain. And on the other side of the valley, on the second part of the mountain, was a social club that they used to project 16mm prints onto the side of. And I think it must have been Where Eagles Dare or something like that. Cool. Aged 5, I just became obsessed with war films, for starters, and cinema in general. Then, I remember catching the opening minutes of Jaws and thought that was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen, just the sheer visceral thrill of watching the opening sequence of Jaws. Basically had me hooked on the idea of horror films. Yeah. Problem is that I couldn't actually see horror films. So they became this, kind of taboo thing or forbidden fruit.
And did you know the existence of many of these horror films?
Oh yeah, because
through zines or
comics like House of Hammer.
Right. Okay.
Then I started picking up Fangoria in the late 70s and started reading about all these films that I didn't have access to. Then Betamax hit.
Of course, yeah.
And everything changed. All of a sudden, the entire world of cinema was open to me. Of course, I concentrated almost exclusively on war movies, carry-on films, and splatter.
Nice. It's a healthy diet.
Which at the time, was pretty much the flavor of the next couple of years.
Yeah, of course.
And that was 79 to about 83, were the 4 years in Bahrain. And at the time, Dawn of the Dead had just hit. Zombie Flesh Eaters, I remember seeing as an 8th generation bootleg.
Nice.
There were the ultra gore films like My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, all of the Halloween 1 and 2, Friday the 13th, the first
Golden Age of slashers, right there.
Golden Age of slashers and Golden Age of splatter.
Yeah.
And I absolutely took to it hook, line and sinker. Reading Fango, being the full, watching these films as soon as they'd been videotaped off a cinema screen.
Beautiful.
In London or New York, right into the video shops and then bootlegged by each other. There's no such thing as a legitimate video release anywhere in the Middle East. It was all taped off TV or cinema screens. I remember my first ever bootleg job, the first of many, was doing a Betamax to Betamax copy of Return of the Jedi.
Right. Okay.
About 3 or 4 days after it had come out in London.
Yeah.
And I made a small fortune at school selling bootleg Betamax.
An entrepreneur from day one.
Yeah. Imagine when I got back to Australia and started in grade 8 in Toowoomba.
Oh god.
Toowoomba hadn't actually got Return of the Jedi yet. So
that's incredible. Yeah. And you think too, at this,
it was a different world back then, man.
You're watching movies and you were just happy to see a movie in any form you could get it.
Right.
As opposed to now where people are so nitpicky about formats and quality and everything else, as to how, except for people obviously that are still downloading cam jobs off the internet.
Right. So there's a dichotomy at work there. I mean, some people are incredibly anal about format and whether there's stuff cut or not.
Of course, yes.
And at the same time, films are seen as this ultimately disposable art form, which you can download, watch, delete, and not even give a second thought as to who's getting paid or whether your downloading is contributing to the destruction of an industry. I don't actually believe that.
No.
I actually see downloading as incredibly healthy and actually creating demand for the physical product.
Yeah. Well, look at the cinema attendance has grown, has spiked in the last couple of years, and it hasn't been off the back of just 3A. It's people do want to go back to the movies for a full experience, and they're giving you the money's worth by increasing, the Atmos in the theatre, Dolby Atmos, and screen sizing, and all these sort of little perks to get you back into the theatre. So I think generally it is. Yeah. It's just that it is cutting into the home end market, but who knows what next step.
Personally, I don't really care about surround sound. I don't watch films that have those whiz bang surround sound effects anyway.
Right.
I prefer smaller films.
Yeah.
And without all the bells and whistles. But I just love the fact that I can sit in a cinema in the dark and be completely immersed in the experience of watching that film.
Absolutely. Because watching at home, you can be so distracted these days with, everything at your disposal. It's so easy to pick up a phone and, just quickly check Facebook or check your text messages.
Absolutely.
Or use a computer whilst you're watching. So there's nothing really that can beat out sitting in a cinema and just being completely engaged.
That's awesome.
In a darkened room with complete strangers. There's no other way to watch. Well, I mean, there is plenty of other ways to watch a horror movie. I'll watch it anywhere.
You can watch it through binoculars.
Precisely. which I remember when I lived in Capera in Queensland, we had a drive-in right near us, and we often would, these little crystal radios where you could tap into frequencies and that, and we would try. Yeah, you could pick up the drive-in.
And then you'd watch them.
We would watch it. We would watch it from the nearest sort of point we could get to. But more often than not, you could walk in, pay money, or you could sneak in.
I think that actually led directly to the death of the drive-ins. I think you're personally responsible.
And
you and your radio frequency stealing terrorist buddies.
A couple instances of me snuck in the boot too to see New Jack City, Pulp Fiction, Last Boy Scout, Seven, those type of films, just to get in there. But Desperado was one that we did the sneak on, because I think it was about 15 or so when that came out. We did the sneaky, watch it from here, tap into the local signal and watch it.
I just remember being incredibly cheated that the Eagles didn't do the soundtrack to that film. Assholes.
And now, in regards to what was the film that kind of took you from being, a passive sort of viewer of cinema, or obviously engaged in movies, to actually wanting to become a filmmaker? How early on was that? Because obviously, Search For Weng Weng was 7 years in development. Prior to that, Lesbo-A-Go-Go, and there was some shorts prior to Lesbo-A-Go-Go.
Real rough home jobs.
Right.
I mean, the filmmaking goes all the way back to high school.
Yeah. Is there any documentaries on those short films you made?
Nah.
No, not yet. Not yet. Someone will find that angle soon.
Be waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Waiting for someone to pitch me that.
Right.
And I mean, I have all of that footage there. I've still got raw footage from 1985 when we did a spoof of Ghostbusters.
Very cool.
Based on our economics teacher.
Right.
Who we nicknamed the Bum because he had such a big ass. and we decided that the bum
yeah.
was taking over the world by sucking everything into his enormous anus.
Absorbing it all.
And so you had to call in bum busters.
Right, okay.
Which in retrospect sounds incredibly suspect.
But,
that was our first film,
and this exists in some form.
Oh, yeah. I never edited it together. I mean, I just, thought, next. And started writing Mad Max 4.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which we started filming and then got drunk and promptly forgot that we were supposed to be making a film.
Right. Well, there's still time to finish it.
That was grade 10. But then, I guess there wasn't really a film. There was just the experience of watching films, becoming incredibly obsessed about cinema in general. I think at the same time as fantasizing about making films, I was also thinking of having a video shop where all of my favorite films would be in their correct order.
Yeah.
Being sort of a weird little catalogist, would-be librarian, I guess.
Yeah.
Aged 11, I was already thinking, how the biker section would look in my dream shop. So I achieved that dream.
Yeah.
Thought, okay, now what? And thought I'd go about trying to achieve the second dream.
Right.
To become a filmmaker. So I've done those two. Now, I should be able to achieve my third aim of becoming a professional gynecologist.
Wow, that's plenty of time. Plenty of time, no doubt. A lot of women like.
I mean, I've been an amateur gynecologist for 30 years now.
Yeah.
And it's just, asking for money afterwards.
Just doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel right.
No. So moving on, so with the Search for Weng Weng, it's toured the world. It's on home end here in Australia through MUFF Speeches and in the UK.
Yeah.
Have you got any other sort of plans for the film? I believe it's coming up in another international film festival soon.
In Laos.
Right. Okay.
Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. Anyway, no one's going to.
Right. Okay. We'll bleep that.
Okay. Plans for Weng Weng, probably it's now seen its festival life.
Excellent.
It had a really healthy one of about 18 months, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah. And you did tour it. You took it to
Europe. And I personally,
US,
I took it to first of all Northern Italy to a Far East Film Festival in Udine in northeast Italy. It then went to the Cannes Film Market where we had a very successful market screening. We ponced up and down the Croisette with the Monster Film guys, forming this kind of Ochre Reservoir Dogs style, mob, going from bar to bar, which was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And hanging out with the Screen Australian smokers, trying to out nerd Alan Finney and Tony Ganane and guys like that. Brilliant, just brilliant. And then a few more festivals up and down the Philippines, and then forwarded it at around 11 or 12 screenings in US and Canada just before Christmas.
Any particular highlights from the US or Canada?
US and Canada, well, going to Toronto to hang out with the Chuds guys after the Weng Weng screening.
These are the guys who run the Chud website?
The guys who did the Weng Weng rap.
Right.
That was that's the dog, by the way, not me.
No.
That was brilliant. Also, standing in my favourite cinema in the world, I'd say, the Silent Movie Theatre in Los Angeles, saying, which we'd already screened at another festival, but this time I actually got to present it myself with one of Weng Weng's co-stars too, who happened to live in Hollywood. Film bar in Phoenix, Arizona.
Somewhere in Detroit too?
A cinema in what used to be a high school, an abandoned high school, which had been turned into a 2-screen independent cinema. Brilliant.
Incredible.
Actually, no, all of the screenings were either awesome or unbelievably awesome.
Right.
That was just the physical act of going to America and turning up in a different city every day, doing my thing, and then going, oh my God, I've still got 2 weeks of this.
Yeah,
it was exhausting. Chicago was probably the worst because the guys put me up in a Hilton next to the airport, and said, "Man, you're going to be able to sleep in this awesome, 4-star hotel room. You've got a 10-minute walk to the airport, to your departure gate."
Right.
So this is brilliant. They took me out drinking after the screening. I thought, okay, I've still got probably a good 5 hours sleep. No, we'll take you for donuts first. I went, oh God, right, you're going to fill me full of sugar. Yeah. It's our favourite donut joint. It was an hour and a half's drive out of Chicago.
No.
So by the time I got back to the airport, that was a 3-hour run. I'm like, I have to be up in about an hour.
Yeah.
So
and full of sugar.
And full of sugar and alcohol. Yeah. By then the alcohol had worn off. It was just sugar
rush.
So I kind of lay there on the bed for about an hour, and then the alarm went off.
Yeah.
And so I had to shower. I was always in the fetal position, crying in the shower for lack of sleep. But I got half an hour's sleep at the departure gate, so that was fine.
You got a mail.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Now, what's next after Search For Weng Weng? You've just been in the Philippines and returned recently. You're back over there pretty soon. You got another film on the boil, another documentary.
It's being edited right now. I spent 3 months in Manila doing a commission job for the family of one of the big action stars of the Philippines, a guy called Rudy Fernandez, who passed away from cancer about 7 years ago.
Right.
The family wanted to mark the 7th year passing with a film about their famous dad, and they managed to get all of these phenomenally popular actors and cinema icons from the Philippines into this movie, along with 2 of Rudy's best friends,
right,
who are also action stars in the 80s, later became senators and are now in prison, caught up in some pork barreling scandal. Right. So I had to sit in prison for 4 days waiting for them to agree to be interviewed for the film.
Wow.
We got them in the end,
yeah.
But I spent a lot of time behind bars for this one.
That's
the things you do for cinema. And of course, the next documentary that we're setting up at the moment, the third in the trilogy, is about sex cinema under the Marcos regime.
Right, yeah.
And the links between power, politics, and pornography.
Right.
And propaganda, or how porn is used as a propaganda weapon, particularly during the final years of the Marcos regime. It just so happened that Rudy's sister was the queen of bomba films, so they're pre-martial law sex movies from 1970 to 1972.
Are these type of films the equivalent of the American kind of roughie, or is this more
they're roughies.
Essentially roughies.
Some of them were more extreme, particularly in the 80s, particularly after a 10-year period of almost complete blanket censorship of anything violent or erotic. In 83, when the Marcos regime was starting to falter, all of a sudden the floodgates were open on this just eye-popping mixture of sex and violence and, to a certain extent, radical politics.
Right, okay.
Of course, the politics were kind of very much under the radar in those films. But, the films themselves are just phenomenal.
Such a strange concept to have a political agenda in effectively violent erotica.
Yeah, but they were, you couldn't make money on a film unless it had bold scenes. What they would call bold.
Right, the salacious elements.
Yeah.
Bold. Right. So when does this documentary, when are you starting production on this?
Well, we've already shot 2 interviews for it.
Yeah.
We've still got about another, 30 or 40 to go.
Right.
But I want to film that during the Philippine elections next year, where Marcos' son, Bong Bong, is running for president.
Wow.
I want to use the elections as a backdrop for looking back at the Marcos era and seeing how erotic cinema was used in a very political way.
Incredible.
Yeah. That one, I think, it's definitely going to be the most controversial film we've made so far. But then again, I might be making a horror film over Christmas.
Right. Okay.
And can you imagine that the little gore-obsessed kid who was watching Jaws through a set of binoculars in Oman is finally going to get to make the horror film he always wanted to make? It's going to be messy.
Excellent. That is excellent.
And very much a throwback to
Classic
My
early
Bloody
80s.
Valentine,
Right, perfect.
Happy
Golden
Birthday
era.
to Me, Friday the 13th, etc., etc. So who knows what the future's going to hold?
Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy.
Yeah, I just want to get back on the gravy train and make it back to the States and form my next couple of films.
What is your favourite part of the filmmaking process? Is it the
It's all of it.
Yeah. Is there any particular part more like bands often prefer being in the studio over touring more often than I?
I love the shoot.
Yeah, the shoot.
I love the actual shoot.
So I like the edit. I love the edit because although you're there and you know what you do and what you don't have, but I almost feel like that's the final control and shape what you've got.
But I also like for documentaries the research process.
Okay.
Where you're starting to come up with all of these thought bombs, which then later become the narrative for the documentary. If you're doing a narrative script, it's the script, the actual the process of coming up with ideas for your script, which I think that intense creative part of the filmmaking process is where the top of your head feels like it's flipping off and all this stuff just comes pouring out in a rain of crazy. But then I really like the exhibiting as well. I mean, there is nothing more empowering to you as a filmmaker than to get up in front of an audience who's just watched it and they're firing questions at you and you're firing the answers back at them.
Yeah.
And there's this dialogue, a genuine dialogue between you, the maker, and they, the audience, who is no longer a passive consumer of your film, but is actively engaged, with the dissection of it. I reckon that is incredibly cool.
And in terms of that, because you've obviously had a very good reaction with audiences and Q&As for Search For Weng Weng, there's one on the Search For Weng Weng DVD from Sydney. In fact.
Filmed by this young up-and-coming filmmaker.
Cool.
Guy's also done a documentary about this unwatchable fake sex movie.
And largely unseen Lesbo-A-Go-Go.
Largely unseen.
Right, yes, of course. But yeah, how was the Q&As when you did the Lesbo-A-Go-Go stuff? Because you obviously screened it not only in Melbourne, you screened it in Brisbane, but then you took it to London, it screened it, even had a retrospective screening last year?
I mean, I finally got to watch it with an audience in London.
Right, okay.
But they were very hip to it.
Excellent.
I never saw what the original reaction was, but I remember back in 2003, 2004, they would have been the last screenings before we dug up the corpse of Lesbo. And I remember at the time just feeling very, very uneasy about the film. I mean, I like it. I think I actually really enjoy watching it still. But I just don't think that anyone else gets it.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, I feel like I have to keep explaining the film for anyone to kind of get anything out of it. Otherwise, they just end up sitting there scratching their heads going, what the fuck was all that about?
What's this? And, whether it's something...
Why is it so deliberately bad?
Yeah.
Or why is it... No, not deliberately bad. I mean, it's really well shot, but why is it deliberately jarring?
Yeah.
And it needed to be a jarring experience because it was essentially a 60s roughie.
Yeah.
And with all of the obstructions that go into creating a film like that, I actually found that to be the most interesting thing about the film. Not what's going on in the film, but the way that the film is being strung together. The photography, the editing, the sound, and the music, all just kind of sitting weirdly on top of this film that is genuinely nasty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really reprehensible.
But you made a movie that was so obscure in the fact that it needed the kind of context for people to appreciate it or have a deeper appreciation for it, to know something. And then your documentary debut was about an obscure actor, but it was such a personal story that kind of extended outside of appreciation of Pinoy cinema or Weng Weng or the cult of Weng Weng, but made a personal story.
Well, I've seen people watch it, who are very much into B cinema.
Yeah.
Watching it with their parents, watching it with their kids. Everybody gets something out of it because it is a very universal story. It's told in a more accessible way than most B-film documentaries that assume you already know, what B-films are all about. Yeah. So instead, I'm kind of taking primarily an innocent audience, or an unjaded audience, into a very new world of Pinoy B films. Something that they probably never.
It's a gateway. You're slowly
very much a gateway. Yeah. Pretty soon they're going to be on the bomber. By the third film, they're going to be mainlining bomber. The 70s, man. Absolutely. Give me some more of those Merle Fernandez films, dude. I'm jonesing for a man.
Incredible.
So, yeah, I mean, the polar opposite to the approach that we took on Lesbo, where it says, it assumes that you already know what a roughie is, and what a Doris Wishman film is, and parodies as well as augments a typical Doris Wishman film. No one in the real world knows who the hell Doris Wishman is.
Absolutely.
And nor should they.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's going to be an incredibly baffling and alienating experience to just about everyone. Yeah. Except me and the small group of Doris Wishman worshippers and people who were in the film and knew exactly what we were trying to do in the first place. So without that lecture at the start saying, this is what you have to look out for, please, just understand what we were trying to do with this. You're going to be greeted by blank faces and going, what is going on?
Is there people that have contacted you that have wanted to see the film? Like, are there Doris Wishman fans out? Because obviously there is Doris Wishman fans. Because there's people you'll mention it
Doris is
within film circles, obviously.
Doris is
people that try to track Doris down through.
Producer on Satan Was a Woman, one of her last films, contacted me after reading my obituary on Doris in Senses of Cinema. And she said, I want to see Lesbo-A-Go-Go. If this is a tribute to Doris, they said, I knew Doris really well.
Right, yeah.
So I posted it to them, and they sent me the most beautiful complimentary email saying, yep, you got it.
You got the blessing.
You got it.
Yeah.
I remember screening the film in Adelaide, apart from the fact that two girls walked out of the cinema and were vibrating with anger, going, oh, that was just horrible. I said, which bit did you find offensive? And they said, all of it! And Mazel Tov to him. Wayne Groom was in the audience, a Adelaide producer and director who made a couple of sexploitation films in Australia, back in the late 70s, early 80s. And he said, I got exactly what you're doing, and I loved the film.
That must be so rewarding for a viewer to be able to.
That's fantastic.
And it's like a little secret thing. It's like a secret club for those people in the audience that
who go. And for the other 99%, they go, what the fuck?
Well, there's a whole doco, so it'll be a slow.
There's a doco, exactly. Now there's a 90-minute lecture.
Absolutely. So you don't have to do the.
I don't have to do that
the forward every time.
No, but we have to screen the doco.
Absolutely.
Before the film. That's exactly what we're doing this Sunday.
This Sunday, September 13th.
Yeah, so 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock
is Weng Weng.
Search for Weng Weng.
Followed by Q&A.
Excellent.
9 p.m. Gone Lesbo Gone.
The Untold Tale of an Unseen Film.
Followed by Q&A.
Yes.
With your good self.
And yourself.
My good self.
And hopefully some of the
We've got some coming along.
Yeah.
And Jesse, who did the soundtrack.
Yes, absolutely.
Rowan Pugh, who was third unit cameraman on
and did some of the behind the scenes photographs from the doco as well. Some of the stuff's in there.
And hopefully we'll get our doe-eyed innocent Kerry with us.
If she's not travelling still abroad,
yeah, because I'd be interested to hear what her reaction is to the documentary.
Absolutely.
After 12 years following Lesbo, because I don't think I've seen her since 2003.
Well, there you go, because
probably
I
a reason
with her
for
in 2013 when I shot her interview, but she hasn't seen the doco, and
no.
That was over 2 years ago now, so I think she would have been scratching her head going, what came of it? She was quite eager to talk about it, and she had great memory of things that went on.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everyone's going to say
getting brutalised and dragged through hell.
Absolutely. And they witnessed that at 10:30, I believe, when Lesbo was
Lesbo follows Gone, Lesbo Gone. So, it's going to be a little bit confronting for me since, Lesbo, and I say this in the documentary, so I can say this now. I mean, that's from an incredibly unhappy period in my life. But then, so was Search For Weng Weng.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the business was slowly going down the tubes. My personal life was in tatters. At one point during the Search For Weng Weng shoot, which took 7 years from first shoot to first screening, at one point I was living on people's couches.
Right.
I think for about 4 months. I had my circuit of couches around Brisbane because I didn't have a fucking home anymore.
Yeah.
So it does bring back Weng Weng, not to a great extent, but Lesbo does bring back some very unpleasant memories of that time. But shit, I got a movie out of it.
That's it.
And the movie led to Weng Weng. Weng Weng is now leading to such incredible opportunities.
Yeah. And,
I can actually call myself, a professional filmmaker because that's what I'm making my money off now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, great.
And anytime you want to trip down memory lane, you can just revisit any of your back catalogue and just experience it all over again. How many times have you watched Search For Weng Weng, like with an audience?
Probably about 60 times.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's good.
And I've seen it. I mean, I had to subtitle it, so I watched it 5 times all the way through on pause, play, pause, play. And then during the editing process, countless times. I think I've seen the film around 150 times. Right. Still not sick of it.
No, that's great.
Maybe I might take a break after Monster Fest.
I think that's fair.
Sorry, after MUFF.
Melbourne Underground Film
After
Festival.
Melbourne Underground, might take a rest for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But I'm incredibly proud of the film. I love the fact that audiences all over the world, not just in the Philippines, not just in my own backyard, actually dig the film, and that it's leading now to further film adventures.
Absolutely.
Which of course will never be the same as that Search For Weng Weng. Mad 7-year dash to try and.
Of course, but your first love.
Try and
you can never have your first love again, can you? So.
Of course. So now.
But I might remind people too, it is available on DVD locally, so you can pick it up on the internet from Monster Pictures.
True, and we do have an online Weng Weng store called Weng Weng Forever, coming up online very soon, where you can buy Weng Weng bobbleheads, Search For Weng Weng t-shirts, DVDs. We can sign the damn things for you, whatever you want with it. Bumper stickers,
perfect Christmas gift,
and stocking fillers galore.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, sir, for your time. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
I love you.
I love you, man.
Oh, that was awkward.
Why? Because they had a Paul Rudd title just kind of come out?
No, because there was a pause before you said I love you back.
I wasn't so much pausing as I was trying to put a bit of convincing expression into it.
You had to work it up, though.
I had to make sure the wife wasn't around. She wasn't listening in. So.
Oh, shit. I think that's her car now.
All right.
Turn this...
Bye.